for now, let me hand it over to Sandip Das sir. He's the founder of Academy of Unlimited Minds, which was started with the mission to empower people to experience happiness in life through his miracle formula. Sandeep sir has 27 years of experience in SAIL, which is the Steel Authority of India Limited, in the areas of industrial engineering, materials management, organizational turnaround strategy, marketing, logistics, and human resource development. A passionate learner and practitioner of ancient Vedic wisdom, uh, he applies cognitive and contemplative sciences to the core. And believe you me, I have experienced his programs. It's really transformational to the core. So he's the creator of Miracle Formula for Happiness and the Quantum Tuning Practice for Psychic Energy Transformation. Sandeep sir is also the author of two books, Key State of the Devas and his now famous Happy Brain Miracle Formula. So with this, I hand it over to Sandeep sir. Over to you, sir. He'll be speaking on the topic, on the theme emotional health, and the topic for his talk is emotional intelligence.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And namaste, everyone. Lovely to connect with this enlightened audience. I can see the energy out there. And thank you, Swamiji, for this wonderful, insightful speech or the discourse on the aspect of spiritual well-being. So thank you very much. मैं जब बोलूँगा तो maybe I'll be mixing Hindi and English as we go along. Just can you give me a quick response on your chat box? Is it audible? Can you hear my voice clearly? And is it also, can you see me also clearly? Loud and clear. Thank you, Pradimna ji. Thank you, Ritesh ji. Thank you so much. Lovely. I can see many people I'm connecting who are already part of my community, have been with me, and many people who are for the first time. So thank you very much. And let me bring my topic to the table. टॉपिक जो हम बात कर रहे हैं आज इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, और इस इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस बहुत ही ज्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है. ये मैं जब पहली बार पढ़ा, when I came across the first book named Emotional Intelligence, I was thoroughly intrigued. बहुत ज्यादा कंफ्यूज हो गया, भैया ये है क्या? ये तो स्पिरिचुअलिटी जैसा लगता है. Very much similar to what Bhagavad Gita talks about. So similar. You know, the funniest aspect of Bhagavad Gita जो मुझे लगता है, अर्जुना कांप रहा है, बोल रहा है कि मेरा तो सब कुछ गड़बड़ लग रहा है, कैनॉट इवन स्टैंड एंड फाइट द वॉर. मतलब इस समय पे भगवान श्री कृष्ण आते हैं और बात करते हैं मन की, बात करते हैं अंदर की. बड़ा सा अजीब सा एक आयरनी है. When I have a huge problem outside, somebody is coming and talking about inside. What is this? And that's life. And that's also about emotional intelligence. Many people, they say the EQ or the emotional quotient, of course, it's a name coined later, is far more impacting in life compared to IQ, the intelligent quotient. So how is this? Let's understand. And as I said, when I read the book for the first time, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, जो कि emotional intelligence को बहुत ज़्यादा popular किए थे in the past maybe 20-25 years or maybe 30 years close to now. And this book is still one of the best sellers in the ranking across all the platforms. And because this has got essence, later on, of course, he developed few things. But मुझे ये सवाल तो बहुत परेशान कर रहा था, भैया इनको ये सब बारे में पता कैसे चला? Because it was almost like putting Bhagavad Gita into a framework. मैं बताऊंगा क्यों और कैसे as we proceed further on this. But later on, when I read the almost, I think, latest book of Dr. Daniel Goleman and Dr. Richard Davidson, my clarity came. Why this was so similar to the Indian philosophy and ethos, the Indian concepts about emotionality, about life, about the journey of life. क्यों? क्योंकि उसमें Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson, who is considered to be one of the most, I term is one of the most revered, regarded scientist in the domain of contemplative neuroscience, means meditative sciences, जहां वो brain को study करते हैं on people who are meditating. And what is the brain doing when we meditate? Is it going somewhere else? Yes, it is going to some other dimension. That's what they have found out now. Now, coming to the my confusion, how could they know all this? Or is it that they have rediscovered this? No. In the book, The Science of Meditation, which got released in last few years, maybe in 2016 or 17, where they have categorically mentioned for last 25 years, or I mean, I'm talking about from 70 till 1995, till they wrote the book Emotional Intelligence. Every summer, Dr. Daniel Goleman and Richard Davidson, almost every summer, they would come to India to understand the true essence of humanity. That's the reason why it is so similar. When we read the book Emotional Intelligence, it talks about few of the elements of human being, which is almost like taken from Bhagavad Gita and have been put in a scientific lingo. So that's what we are going to look at. And name of the book is The Science of Meditation by Dr. Richard Davidson and Dr. Daniel Goleman. Yeah, that's what Dr. Pranith Mishraji is putting forth as a question. So let me bring in for keeping us on track, because this is such a field of science, such a field of exploration. We have every possibility and challenge of getting distracted from our track. So let me bring in a slide, but that would be just indicative. We will understand the aspects of emotional intelligence and why this is so empowering and powerful. So let's look at that. Just give me one moment. I will again check with you if the slide is visible or not before we proceed further. मुझे एक बार बता दीजिएगा ये स्लाइड आपको दिख रही है और मैं भी दिख रहा हूँ और मेरी आवाज भी आ रही है. If you can say all good, right? AG is the term I use in my community as all good. Yeah, great. Thanks. Great. Now, coming to emotional intelligence, you can see multiple emotions and how these emotions actually derive and decide the quality of our life. Another book, I'll keep referring to some books. If you want really to get into the depth of emotions, please do take time out to read those books. A book by Candace Pert, Dr. Candace Pert. She had written this book sometime maybe in 90s or late 90s or early 2000s, a book which talks about how body and mind are very closely associated, related, and connected through emotions. It's talking about emotion, or the name of the book is Molecules of Emotion. So molecules of emotion, that means emotions are not just mind, they are also the body. So it's combination of body and mind when we talk about emotion. So let's come back to the slide. There is a question, many times it comes. Why EQ is more powerful than IQ? Why always the EQ wins? It's not my version. It's some research that suggests, and this research has come at a time when IQ was having extraordinary, or rather more than the attention it actually deserved. That anyone who is having high IQ would suffer sufficiently, having that ability to succeed in life. And this was challenged by a few people in the 80s. They said, no, IQ is one aspect for sure, but that's not something which is the last thing. Would you agree with this? If you agree with this statement that EQ is the winner, just write EQW. EQW means EQ is the winner. If you agree, I'm not saying that you are bound to agree. You can write N, that means don't agree. No, you can write N or you can write EQW. Yeah. Let me see. EQW, many of you are writing. Anyone who would like to counter this argument, you can free to write N. So yeah, you can free to write N. So far, all EQ, all of you have been giving more weightage to EQ. I would put it, I agree, I respect this, but at the same time, I also put it a little differently, that IQ is important. We cannot say that somebody is absolutely having very, very low IQ and still can succeed. So IQ is a necessary condition. It needs minimum threshold. Till that IQ we should strive. That IQ is needed for a human being to perform at some optimal level. We need a basic level of IQ, but beyond that, it doesn't work. Rather, it can be counterproductive if it is very extremely high, but the EQ is not there. It can really, really hurt somebody. It's been seen. People like Hitler, extremely high IQ and EQ, which is negative in its orientation. We'll talk about that. Negative orientation of EQ. You can attract people. You can really motivate them. You can really charge them up. But at the same time, you can make them do something horrific, which he did. Similarly, there are numerous examples. High IQ, but EQ in some negative connotation can really, really hurt the entire globe, entire humanity, and even people around you. Abusive peoples are having low EQ and they don't grow in the long run, especially don't grow in the area where happiness resides. Happiness is not about wealth, is not about lots of money. It's not about having lots of followers and people who are really regarding, respecting, or giving you a lot of attention. It's about inner journey to access something which is divine in nature. So we'll look at that as we proceed further. So what is this? Having this long introduction to the course, let's move further and see what exactly is EQ, or emotional intelligence is a word which I love to refer to more often. Emotional intelligence, as I mentioned, sounds so very spiritual and so comprehensive in its nature. If you have EQ or emotional intelligence, virtually you cover up, you encompass every dimension of life, every dimension. Why? It talks about two aspects. In two vertical columns, you can see one is written self. That means it's about yourself. You are someone. And next one, others. So you know, or you have self aspect and others aspect. Then in the horizontal segments, we'll see awareness and management. Let me tell you, this is the end of everything. If you know this much, you are understanding the entire framework of emotional intelligence. That means it is self and others, awareness and management. Each of these quadrants, if you see, आपको अगर दिख रहा होगा चार बॉक्सेस हैं वहां पे, सेल्फ, अदर्स दो वर्टिकल कॉलम्स और दो हॉरिजॉन्टल कॉलम्स. सो जो इंटरसेक्शन होता है वो चार बॉक्स और चार क्वाड्रेंट आ जाता है. So immediately we can give. What will be the first quadrant? Anyone who would like to write on the chat box? What will be the first quadrant? If you see the left top quadrant, self है ऊपर और साइड में है awareness. Wonderful, Partha Pratim ji. So it is, so fastest finger first. Yeah, self awareness. Yeah, it is about the self awareness. Yeah, open area, it is about another concept called the Johari window. We are talking about the emotional intelligence here. So it is self-awareness. When I see myself, you can see that mirror somebody is looking at. When we understand about ourselves, that's self-awareness. And this is termed as the linchpin, the most important aspect of the emotional intelligence framework. So self-awareness. Great. Yeah, the self-awareness. When we go there and see ourselves, self-awareness, agar hum scientific tarike se dekhen, what is this? In a book, another book, Tell Brain, Dr. V.S. Ramachandran, who writes it wonderfully. He mentions that although the self appear to be monolithic, as if मैं एक हूं, monolithic, physically I am one unitized separate entity, but actually in essence we are layers of consciousness. That means I do not have one consciousness. It has layers stacked upon one another, and then I feel I am that one consciousness layered above. Sounds counterintuitive to Advaita Vedanta, but it is more Advaita Vedanta than anything else. In fact, the Advaita Vedanta approach is this: how to understand yourself as one with the universe it starts with discernment, viveka. You have to first discern things, then you merge it. Discern, first separate, then merge. So it's a technical term they use, adhyasa apavada in that. And typically when I learn the emotional intelligence, also similar. You have to first segregate, then you see that all of them are same, equal. First, let's come here. Now, here in neuroscientific term, we can see the part of me which can understand my emotionality. My intelligence, it's emotional intelligence. My intelligence, when it can understand my emotions, is emotional intelligence. First thing comes from the self-awareness. Just by knowing about my emotions, my strengths, my weaknesses, my limitations, my ability to speak, how I'm responding to situation which is little tough, how I respond when somebody is criticizing me, how I respond when there are delicious food in front of me. Am I binge eating? How I respond when a good show on television comes and I have some other responsibility. My response is an emotion. All of us, let us write here, emotion is the genesis of response. Our response is from emotions. Just write RGE, meaning response is from emotions. The genesis of response is emotion. GRE, sorry, I mentioned RGE. GRE, genesis of response is emotion. Our response mechanism is from emotion. Why I'm saying this? Because you can just write GRE. Genesis means origin of our response. When I'm angry, when I'm sad, when I'm worried, when I'm very agitated, all this are coming because of that emotion. And emotion, it comes to our self much faster than intelligence, much faster. It's almost like double the speed, more than double the speed. It takes about, scientifically, if you see, the emotion surfaces when there is a stimulus. Stimulus is something outside. Emotional surfacing happens in 1/100th of a second. Much before even we can think about that. So it comes much faster. So emotion immediately takes over. The body gets prepared with that emotional trigger. The moment I get a trigger that rasgulla is there, body is already prepared. Salivation has happened. My digestive juices have started secreting and readiness of the body is there to go grab the sweet and have it. So fast is the emotional system in the body, whereas it takes some more time, almost double the time, in about 1/50th of a second. The intelligence aspect, the prefrontal lobe, get the entire comprehensive idea about, oh my God, Rasgulla, it's not good for me because maybe I'm putting on weight or I have got high blood sugar, whatever. But that takes little more time. By that 1/50th of a second, the body is already prepared, absolutely prepared to respond. And it is so overwhelming. Intelligence is very small to fight that overwhelming, super powerful emotional body, emotional aspect. So we say this knowledge is what we need to work upon to move towards. That is self-awareness, knowing about my emotions. How do I respond? How am I taking myself? How am I understanding myself in terms of my emotions? मेरा जो emotions हैं वो कैसे surface होते हैं, कब होते हैं, क्यों होते हैं, किस intensity तक होते हैं, and जब होते हैं तो body में क्या होता है? One of the biggest aspect of emotional intelligence, please listen to this very carefully. One of the biggest and most important aspect of your emotional intelligence is understanding your body's happening, physiological senses or sensory understanding or sensory impulses to know your emotion. Meaning, जब आपका emotion बदलता है, body बदल जाता है. As per the concept of molecules of emotion, when you are angry, your breath pattern change. All of us, we know that. When I'm angry, I have a different breath pattern. When I'm sad, I have a different breath pattern. When I'm rejoicing, happy, I have a different breath pattern. Not just that, body physiology, my heart rate, body temperature, skin tonality, stiffness in my muscles, stiffness in my joints, flow or circulation of blood, flushing of sugar into the blood pressure, everything change with emotionality, with the change of emotion. If we can develop that kind of acuity, that kind of sharpness to understand the body, that's one of the most important aspect of self-awareness. Please write it as a task for you. If you can know your body, you know your emotion. Know your body, know your emotion. Yeah, that's one. So self-awareness. The next aspect is self-management. It's about my act, my action, my process, my progress, how I'm acting, what are the tasks that I'm doing. इसका दो एलिमेंट है, मैं अपने आप को रेगुलेट कैसे कर रहा हूं. इमोशनली मैं चाहता कुछ हूं और आई एम डूइंग समथिंग एल्स. ऑल ऑफ अस विल डू दैट. इमोशनली मुझे लगता है सुबह उठ के मुझे थोड़ा देर तक सो जाना है, कितना मजा आता है. बट आई वॉन्ट, मुझे वॉन्ट मतलब मुझे लगता है कि मुझे जाके एक्सरसाइज करना चाहिए. वो फाइट में मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इमोशन ही जीत जाता है. उस एबिलिटी को डेवलप करना इज नोन एज emotional regulation or emotional management. So managing yourself is what we say we need to work upon, we need to understand. उसको करेंगे कैसे, एक छोटा सा टिप मैं देता हूं जिसपे आप ध्यान दे सकते हैं, कर सकते हैं उसको लेके. वो टिप है कि होमवर्क बिफोर हैंड यू डिसाइड एंड विजुअलाइज. मतलब अगर आपको सुबह उठना है, अगर आपको सुबह जगना है, तो इस पे आपको पहले से ध्यान देना होगा, क्योंकि उस समय इट इज वर्चुअली इम्पॉसिबल टू अटेंड. वर्चुअली यू कैनॉट डू इट. व्हाई? बिकॉज इमोशन इज टू पावरफुल. जब इमोशन एक बार आपकी बॉडी को लेके भागने का मूड में है, आप कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे. सो बिफोर हैंड you say, the moment I get urge to eat rasgulla, I will just hold for a moment, take 7 breaths and go and have a glass of water instead of taking the rasgulla. That you have to prepare beforehand, visualize beforehand and verbalize beforehand. Rasgulla aega to I'm ready to take a glass of water and I'll say, wow, enjoying the glass of water by taking 7 deep breaths. This would help. So regulation is to be done, prepared, planned beforehand. Yeah, it's completely a very vast journey how we can do that step by step, simplified process. But regulation is about self-discipline by design. You can write SDD, self-discipline by design. We have to design it beforehand. It doesn't happen spontaneously. Emotion comes spontaneously based on our past, but if you have to do it, we have to design it. It has to be having that clear idea beforehand. Self-discipline by design. So self-awareness आके वो डिजाइन में इन्वॉल्व होके करेगा. नेक्स्ट टाइम जब ये कंडीशन आएगा, रसगुल्ला नहीं, ग्लास ऑफ वाटर will what I take, I will enjoy that moment. I'm giving an emotional stimulus, enjoyment associated to a glass of water, not to rasgulla. That has to be planned, that has to be seeded inside me. So this is about self. The other aspect is others. That is knowing others. Social awareness, we term it. It's not others awareness, sounds little unusual. So it's social awareness. दूसरों को समझना. Empathy. How many of you have heard about this term called empathy? Just mention empathy or just mention E if you've heard about this term called empathy. Great. Lovely. So E is empathy. It's very different from sympathy. सिंपैथी में हम किसी दूसरे को सिंपैथेटिक होते हैं, उसको बोलते हैं कुछ दे देंगे, उसके दुखी है तो उसको कुछ हेल्प करेंगे, वो सोचते हैं. ये थोड़ा सा अलग है. इसमें क्या सोचते हैं, इसमें हमको समझ में आ जाता है कि दूसरे के मन में क्या इमोशंस चल रहे हैं. अंडरस्टैंडिंग अदर्स इमोशन इज व्हाट इज वी नो और कॉल एज एम्पैथी. पुटिंग आवरसेल्व्स इन अदर्स सिचुएशन as he or she thinks about it. It's not how I think about it. It's how the other person thinks about it. Yeah. So एम्पैथी को कैसे डेवलप करना है, अगर आपका ये क्वेरी क्वेश्चन है, क्वेश्चन के समय इसको हम हैंडल करेंगे। हर कोई आप ये सोशल अवेयरनेस बढ़ा सकता है, इसमें टेक्निक है, ट्रिक है। इफ यू हैव सम क्वेरी अबाउट दिस, प्लीज पुट इन द क्वेश्चन when we come to Q&A, but this can be developed. This ability to have higher level of empathy or social awareness can be developed. And the fourth aspect is relationship management. हम रिलेशनशिप कैसे बढ़ाएं, तो ये पूरा का पूरा जो फ्रेमवर्क को एक बार फिर से देख लेते हैं। है क्या इसमें? खुद को समझना है, जिसमें मैं सबसे ज्यादा समय दिया। खुद को समझना है। दूसरा, खुद को मैनेज करना है। माई एक्शंस, माई इमोशंस, माई एक्सप्रेशंस, इवन माई एक्सपीरियंसेस। एक्सपीरियंस बहुत बड़ा मैटर करता है। मैं दुखी हूं या खुश हूं, whether I'm angry or I'm calm, all these are self-management, because I'm managing my experience also, my expressions and experiences. So self is self-awareness and self-management. अदर साइड में क्या है? अदर अवेयरनेस, जिसको हम बोलते हैं सोशल अवेयरनेस, दूसरों को समझना, इवन ग्रुप में या अकेले, और दूसरों को मैनेज करना, जिसको हम बोलते हैं रिलेशनशिप मैनेजमेंट। ये कोई ट्रिक नहीं है, इसमें कोई मैनिपुलेशन नहीं है, इस प्योर मैनेजमेंट विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू understanding that how my relationship I manage, so that I live a qualitative life, others also live a qualitative life. I can empower others. इसमें बहुत सारी चीज आ जाते हैं, लीडरशिप, टीम वर्क, कम्युनिकेशन, मैनेजिंग कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, अंडरस्टैंडिंग अदर्स, मोटिवेटिंग अदर्स, डेवलपिंग अदर्स। बच्चों को डेवलप करना भी इसके तहत आ जाता है। फैमिली में अच्छा बॉन्डिंग रहना रिलेशनशिप मैनेजमेंट में आ जाता है। ये सब कोई, ईच वन ऑफ दिस एलिमेंट्स are so very important in our life. So that's the reason they say EQ thrives. It's much more important compared to just IQ. We need IQ, but that's not sufficient. IQ is the necessary condition, basic condition, but EQ is the sufficient condition for a qualitative life. So with the time, I think we should honor the time. And this quadrant, if you understand emotional intelligence completely. This is the quadrant: self-awareness, self-management, other awareness or social awareness, other management or relationship management. With this, I think I will come to the end of this. So you need to know your emotional intelligence by looking at each of these quadrants. Of course, there is, if you want to know more on this, you can go to my YouTube channel. There is already available on emotional intelligence a little longish video, and also there is a link given where you can measure your EQ. Yeah, you can go there and definitely try it out. So thank you very much. I think Pradyumna ji, I'm done with it. Any query, question? I know it's a vast subject compared to the time that we spent, but certainly I think you got some basic aspect about it. Thank you very much for your kind words and responses. Anything that you would like to know about
Thank you so much,
specifics, any query that you have, please carry on. Yeah, now I'm
for
giving it over.
all the people. I'd love to thank Sandip sir on behalf of every one of us here. It's a wonderful and illuminating session on the theme of emotional intelligence. I just hope and wish that it helps and empowers all of us